welcome to Case of the Week. I'm Katie Webster, Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney, and today we're going to be talking to Dan Laren, another Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney. We're going to be talking to him about a case involving a burglary, and a lot of times when people think about burglaries, they don't think about how other people are also affected. They only think about homeowners as the victims, but today we're going to talk about a case where a 19-year-old girl was injured as a result of a burglary, and she wasn't the homeowner. Hello, Mr. Laren.
Well, good morning.
How are you?
I'm just fine.
So we're here to
Living
talk
the
about
dream,
case.
as they say.
Yeah.
Ray has had me track burglaries here in our office since about 2002. So I've been looking at cases like this for a long time. And the typical thing that happens in burglary cases is they're described as nonviolent property offenses. And our judges have a tendency to put people that commit crimes like this on probation, and most of the time there's an angry homeowner or somebody who's renting an apartment, their property gets stolen, they're upset, but our judges tend to let that slide because it's a nonviolent property offense. This particular burglary was different, and it happened last June, back in 2012. It's pretty much every homeowner's worst nightmare. About 2:45 in the morning, the homeowner hears a noise, he wakes up, he goes out and he sees a man in his living room, and scares him. He called 911. It's a pretty powerful 911 call. The guy runs, the homeowner follows him out, where he finds a big pile of his possessions, televisions, stereo speakers, game systems, clothes, things like that, stacked up in the driveway, along with some stuff from another burglary.
From another home burglary?
Right nearby, there was another burglary. So the suspect goes out into a vehicle, the vehicle leaves, and the responding patrol officers are looking for the vehicle. They find it driving in the neighborhood with no headlights on. They try to approach it. The vehicle drives through a yard, knocks over a tree, and then keeps going. And it wasn't a high-speed pursuit. They're going after the vehicle, but they're keeping an eye on it. Eventually the vehicle stops. This is out near Versailles Road and New Circle, and then up on Alexandria Drive the vehicle stops. There's two suspects in the vehicle. They bail out. The police catch them, identify them as Benjamin Fryman and Sean Smith. Smith was driving the vehicle. Fryman was identified by the burglary victim as the man who had been in the house. The investigators also find that the reason that the vehicle stopped is that it caused a collision. And there was a very nice young lady. She was 19 years old at the time. She was driving home from her shift at a local pizza joint, and you can see the pictures here. The collision was head-on, and it was hard enough to basically knock the front end off the suspect's vehicle. She was injured, her leg was broken, and her vehicle was on fire. When the patrol officers came up to it, the vehicle was on fire, and they had to assist her to get out. If they had not been there, the odds are pretty good she would have been unable to exit that vehicle because her leg was broken.
Wow.
So she went to the hospital. These two young men went to the hospital. They were belligerent. They had to be tased. There was a fight with the police officers. They told the cops that they were on bath salts. They'd been drinking all night, and so that's pretty much how the case shook out.
So what were they charged with?
Well, they were charged with burglary, assault, a host of other charges: fleeing and evading, DUI. Resisting arrest, things of that nature, for all the havoc that they caused, not only to this young lady and the homeowner, but at the hospital. They had to eventually be sedated because they were fighting with the doctors and nurses that were trying to treat them. The case came in through our system. The defense attorneys, in particular Mr. Fryman's attorney, kept delaying the case because they sent him out for mental evaluation, and then she convinced the judge to send Mr. Fryman to drug treatment while the case was still pending. And so the case delayed until August of this year, when they both eventually pled guilty. Mr. Fryman chose to leave drug treatment, but they pled guilty to the burglary and the assault. They were sentenced. Their sentencing date was in September. Mr. Smith, who didn't really have a criminal record, pled guilty to the assault because he was driving the vehicle, and the burglary, some other charges. He got 11 years to serve in the penitentiary.
Did either of them have significant criminal history?
Well, Smith really didn't. I think he had a no insurance prior. Mr. Fryman was a persistent felony offender. He had prior felony convictions for, I believe it was receiving stolen property and fraudulent use of a credit card. The corrections records showed that he had been released on shock probation. He had reacted to that privilege by getting a number of misdemeanor convictions, receiving, fleeing, evading, leaving the scene of an accident. He violated probation again, and so his record was very significant. He was not guilty of the assault because he wasn't driving the car, but he pled to the burglary, persistent felony offender, some of the other charges that were involved, and he likewise got an 11-year sentence. The thing about Mr. Fryman is that he chose not to come to court for his sentencing, and our police officers had to go find him. He was hiding at his grandmother's house, and there was another chase. He tried to run away. Our canine officers and our Air 1 helicopter unit were utilized to find him, bring him to court. So these two young men are both now serving 11-year sentences, and this is a burglary case. The victims were pleased with the resolution. I'm glad that they were held accountable for their actions, and they'll be serving some time, and Mr. Fryman in particular will not be committing any more crimes in our community for a few years.
And everybody thinks property offenders are not violent offenders.
That's the word that they use for us.
And this is a case where this has definitely resulted in 3 people going to the hospital.
It did.
Violent.
The young lady whose car was destroyed and caught on fire and whose leg was broken did not think it was a nonviolent offense.
Well, I'm glad this turned out okay for the victims.
Thank you.
Sounds like they're where they need to be. Good work, Dan.
Absolutely.
Thanks. We'll see you next time for Case of the Week.